Hello, it's Simon Whiteside here from Simon Whiteside Music and Jivenik's Design Studio. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to use the Atomic Age print pack from the amazing retroSupplyCo. 3 apps were used to make the illustration I'm going to process: Procreate, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe Photoshop. The fine folk at retroSupply have been making useful things for illustrators to make retro work for a long time now. And in this video I'll be showing you how to use retroSupplyCo's Atomic Age print pack. Oh yeah! You can pick up the Atomic Age print pack by visiting www.retrosupply.co. So what will you learn? 1. What type of artwork this pack suits. 2. What works best in Adobe Illustrator. 3. How the Photoshop document works. This is an illustration by Canadian artist Carmen O'Donnell. I discovered her on Instagram, and we share a love of a certain type of mid-century art. I dig the likes of Jim Flora, Cliff Roberts, Saul Bass and animators from UPA, Disney and Hanna-Barbera. I also like modern devotees who reproduce work in this style, like Von Glitschka, Ed Ville, and particularly the hip-to-the-tip Derek Yaniger, one solid gone gator. Just like me, you can find Carmen on Instagram. You can also find Carmen on Etsy. Visit her store to buy stickers, postcards, art prints, shirts, and even these groovy mugs. I converted the image into vectors in Illustrator after I redrew the image in Procreate on 2 layers, colour plus black and white to allow the design to work in the Atomic Age print pack. So, on to the good stuff. Open the PSD. I've got a square version here I made because I do a lot of album art design. It works using smart objects. Those of you already familiar will know that you can import your artwork into these various layers and then process them using the overlays available on the halftone layer in black and white and on the color layer. This is why I use corresponding artboards in Adobe Illustrator. There's also a background layer which has some vintage paper and further ways to distress the background. You can also import extra overlays from the refill pack. So, double-clicking on the smart object opens this new window. I'm just going to check the canvas size so that you can see what we're using. The canvas is square at 2,329 pixels. This is important for when you're importing your artwork. It's good to have your Illustrator document at the same size. In the File menu, choose Place Embedded and navigate to your AI document. One of the things I discovered is to make the black layer and the color layer correspond correctly. Don't use bounding box, but change it to media box. And then you press OK. Let's have a quick look at this. Crop box seems to work as well actually, but I prefer using media box. Bounding box is quite big. When we change to media box, it goes smaller. Press OK, it will be imported. Hit return, and then save. Close this tab and you'll see that the line work has arrived in the main document. We can have a look here at the overlays. This is where the image ends up from the smart object, and you can alter the ripple and median to get better or less distinct edges. Now let's import the color layer. Double click on the smart object, go back to Place Embedded. It should take you back to where you were, but if not, navigate towards your AI document again. I change it to media box again, but it's not always necessary on the color layer. Pressing OK puts the image in, hit return, save, and close the tab. And now all of the images are in the main document and we can start processing and choosing our options. I'm going to nudge the color layer slightly because I want that misregistration look. You can see it around the star objects where there's a bit of white showing. Now we can start processing our layers. When you open it up, you'll see that there's a paper layer that's already ticked. This is set to a fairly subtle look at the moment, but I'll blow it out for you so you can see how much it can get. Oh, missed. Hang on. There we are, full effect, and then drag it back to something a lot more subtle. Now you have other options. There's large halftone, small halftone, large perfect halftone, and small perfect halftone. This is the one I want to use, so click on that layer and just bring down the opacity so it's a subtle effect. That looks good to me. Just to be clear, I'm working on the layers panel. You can open it here. Now onto the color layer. I've just turned the paper back on there, it was off for some reason. And I've used this layer before, so it's set to a fairly subtle thing, but they come out mostly like this at 100%, so you can choose how much to have. I think I'm going to use this one here and drag it right down to something in the 10s. That's looking pretty good to me, almost like it's been printed. But we can take things further. We can go on to the final layer below, which is the paper layer. I'm going to use this time capsule grunge layer, and remember you can import more from the refill pack. Let's turn that down a bit. And what I find is that if you treat it on 3 layers, you get a more subtle effect, with the overlays adding up to a more complex effect. I'm going to export from my Mac using Shift, Option, Command S. If you're on a PC, obviously these may be slightly different. I do a lot of cover art to embed in MP3s for Audio Jungle and iTunes and the like, and I find 1500 by 1500 pixels is about right. Look at that lovely edge there, that sort of inky edge. Press save and name it. Let's call it Wine Time. Save that. And we're done. So let's review where everything came from. First of all, Carmen made her original artwork in Procreate. I made a Procreate copy and then vectorized it in Illustrator before importing it into Photoshop to be processed in the Atomic Age print pack. Thanks to Carmen O'Donnell for making inspiring art. Thanks to retroSupplyCo for making hit retro products. Thanks to you for watching. Links to the stuff in the video description. And remember, like, subscribe and hit that bell. And yes, I did write the music. Plant you now and dig you later. Abyssinia.